So guys, in this video today, we're having a look at everything that you can do on a Mercedes-Benz key. Now, to the untrained eye, it would look like you could just unlock and lock, and in some cases, if you're lucky enough, you can also do the boot. But actually, there's a few hidden features that you might not know from the offset. So in this video, we're going to look at 7 ultimate little hidden features found on a Mercedes key. And as always, it can vary, so if you're not sure, get in touch with your local Mercedes and they can let you know exactly what yours can do. So without further ado, let's have a look at number 1. So for the first one, did you know that most Mercedes can have their windows open remotely using said key? Now, not all models can do this, as I mentioned, it can vary. Most modern Mercedes can do this, although there was a time where it was just on cars that had keyless go. Keyless go is the where you can lock and unlock using the handles, which is pretty neat. But in this case, this car does have it, so if you hold unlock when you're next to it, all the windows will go down. And if you're lucky enough to have a sunroof, the sunroof will open as well. Very, very nice. And of course, you can do the same if you hold the lock button. Everything will go back to the way you had it before. All about that luxury. And if you're lucky enough to have a convertible, did you know that if you hold the unlock button on that car, you can do this? Yes, you can convert the entire car and obviously just vent the interior in case it's really, really hot out. And on some cars as well, if you're lucky enough to have ventilated seats, it can even put the ventilated seat on just to cool it down. Because obviously the reason why you're probably doing that is to vent the interior. So it's all about that kind of Mercedes luxury and ingenuity. So you can also hold lock, and then the same thing, just like the windows and the sunroof, it'll convert back up, just like this. It's so clever how it works. Perfect. Right, on to number 2. Now, another hidden feature on the Mercedes-Benz key is that you can actually program it to do the driver's door only when you unlock it. This is particularly useful for security and that sort of thing. Now, I did cover this some time ago on 10 ways to keep your Mercedes secure. So if you want to check that one out, click on the pop-up banner up above. But just to show you in this video, unlock, then of course you've got the driver's door there and then passenger door like normal. But if you want to do it so the driver's door only unlocks, just hold unlock and lock together. It's around about 6 seconds. So if I hold those two together, you'll have a red LED flash up on the screen like that. There we go. So now lock, and when you go to unlock it, it will only do the driver's door, just like that. Now, if you want to reverse it, then of course, just hold unlock and lock together again. It will put it back the way it was before. And one very important thing to note, if you have a spare key, then make sure if you want to do it on both keys, make sure you do it on your spare as well. So then guys, I have mentioned a few times on my channel on how you can switch off your keyless system on your key. So some cars have a thing called keyless go. So when the key's in this area here, you can unlock and lock just like that, which is pretty nice. However, if you are washing the car, for example, or you just want to turn the keyless system off, because obviously if you're washing it, your sponge and water will be kind of in this area, key's probably in your pocket, and then suddenly it unlocks and then locks and stuff like that. So you can actually switch off the keyless system. And the way you do that is by pressing lock twice, and then the red LED will look a little bit like this. It will just kind of stay on for just a little bit longer, and then it's switched off. However, a few of you in the comment section had mentioned, Nick, this doesn't work on my Mercedes anymore. Have Mercedes removed it? And quite a few of you had said the same thing. So I did some digging and I found out that the kind of newer styled keys, just like this one, have a slightly different way of switching off keyless go. Now, sadly, there isn't a way of actually telling which key does which. So the only way I can say is if you press lock twice, if the red LED stays on like this here, then you have the previous one. However, if like this key, you press the lock button twice and it doesn't stay on, then you've got the newer style key. And the process is slightly different, and I only found this out the other day. So the way to do it on the new style keys is basically hold lock, then immediately press unlock twice. And I'll put this on screen so you can see, lock, unlock, then the red LED will stay on for just a little bit longer. Now this key is switched off. So despite the key literally being here, now the keyless will not work. Lock, unlock, nothing. Obviously, if you want to put it back on, just hit unlock, then it's back to normal with the lock and unlock, just like that. So let's move on to the next one. Now guys, if you've been lucky enough to be on holiday for, I don't know, a few months for example, and you come back to a car with a slightly lower battery than normal because you haven't used a trickle charger or something, then you might not be able to start it. So in which case, what you'll normally need to do is just ring roadside assistance or Mercedes-Benz's breakdown cover, and they'll come give you a hand. Or for whatever reason, if you want to kind of get into the car yourself, how do you get in? Because of course, if you know your key battery's got battery in it and you know you've got the lights coming on when you unlock and lock it, but of course the car's not doing anything, how do you get in? Because a lot of these keys now are like keyless and that sort of thing, and there's no like keyhole. Or is there? There is, and it's actually very, very well hidden. So I've actually turned this key off here so the keyless entry is not going to work while we do this. But on the very bottom of the key, there is a kind of button. If you press this in, you can pull the very bottom of the key out, which is almost like what I like to call a blade of a key. So with that, how do you get in the car? Well, there's actually a hidden hole just under here, underneath. Now this is very, very delicate, so only obviously do this in emergencies, you know, if you desperately needed to get into the car, but I'd always recommend the roadside assistance team or breakdown team come and give you a hand, or just speak to like your local Mercedes-Benz dealership. But if you did need to get into the car, as detailed in the manual, all you do is basically put this in underneath, and you have to give it a little bit of a wiggle, and I said it is very, very delicate. And when it's in there, you then just prise this bit, you kind of pull it up towards you, but be very, very delicate when you do so, and eventually that will come off just like that. I said it is very, very delicate, and obviously it's being new, that's not come off before, so obviously if you have done it previously it might be a bit easier. But that exposes the actual keyhole of where you can put the key. Now of course, I should only do this when the car's battery is very, very low, because if I did this now it would set the alarm off. But of course you put the key in, turn it around, and then you can get in and then get some power into the battery. And speaking of batteries guys, of course if you want to change your key battery, a few of you have asked before how you charge your key battery. And sadly, that is a myth that's been going around, I've noticed on the internet, with people asking how to charge your key battery, when actually the batteries used in modern car keys, they don't have facilities to recharge. So that would be pretty cool, but the batteries used are just coin batteries. So in Mercedes, they're either called a CR2025 or CR2032 battery, depending on which key you have. And I have actually made a separate video on how to do that. So I'll link that up above, and of course the links in the description for the batteries that Mercedes-Benz use for the keys. As I said, there's CR2025 and CR2032, just depends which key you have. But of course, check that video out, and if that's not working, there'll be a link in the description down below as well. Now then guys, what happens if on the other end of the spectrum you have a low key battery and you don't have a spare to hand? Now modern Mercedes do actually indicate on the screen and tell you when your key battery is getting low, which is quite good. But just in case you've been really, really busy and have been ignoring it and dismissing it every single time, and then one day you unlock the car, it's enough power in the key to unlock it, but then you go to start it and then it doesn't start. So what do you do? Well, Mercedes-Benz have thought of this just in the event of an emergency where you can't get your hands on like a spare battery or anything. There's kind of like a NFC chip in the very top of the key called near field communications, and of course I've taken the batteries out of this just to give that kind of example. So this doesn't do anything at the moment. But what you do, have a look in this area here. Some cars it's in here, but it's usually in the center somewhere. There's like a little symbol that looks just like that there, with a picture of a key with wireless symbols either side. If you put the key in kind of facing that way round, so if I put it in there, and I'm just going to very delicately leave it on the top, just there, that will go. So what you do now is you just simply turn it on, but what the car's going to do is going to search around for the keyless key, and obviously when it can't find that, it will then check that chip. So press this, it's searching, place the key in the marked space, which I've already done, and then it'll start. And that is without a battery in the actual key itself. Mercedes think of everything. So there we go guys, that is 7 tips and tricks on your Mercedes key. Now if you want to see other tips and tricks on the Mercedes cars themselves, be sure to check out my other videos just here, as that playlist shows you all of the tips and tricks I've ever made, including this video. So guys, of course, huge shout out to Sandown Mercedes as they help provide access to all these awesome cars you see in the videos. Until next week, see you then.